Hey everybody, it's Ryan, your personal trainer, wanting to go over some nutrition information to help you get a baseline for where you need to be. In my previous video, I went over the breakdown of how much maintenance calories is required for you to calculate so you can figure out how many calories you're burning a day to have a baseline to determine whether you need to add calories or decrease calories depending on your goal. I did forget to mention female and talk about the multiplier, so in this video I'm going to go over a female example so that way I can balance things out. So we take a female that's around 160 pounds and we take a multiplier. We multiply that weight by 11 or 13. So 11 would be someone who's sedentary or low activity, maybe working out 3 days a week. And then 13 would be someone who works out almost every single day. If you have an active job, your calories may be higher, but for the purposes of understanding kind of where you're at and keeping the numbers sort of in a more kind of a lower end of scale, you're going to want to use 13, not higher than that. The only exception is you're going to, if you're like an athlete and you train twice a day, and then your numbers are going to change. So we take that body weight, 160 pounds, we multiply it by 0.8, we get 128 grams. That's your minimum protein required for a female. Now just so we understand how many calories that is, at 128 grams times 4 calories, because each calorie of protein, or each 1 gram of protein is 4 calories, that's about 512 calories. Now we figure this out. The reason why we want the protein requirement to be, we want to take out the protein requirement is because that's the minimum amount of protein you need to have every day to maintain your lean body mass. It's one of the main studies or the main things that are out there that people use as far as guidelines. Some people will debate that you need 1 gram per pound of body weight. Some people say you only need 0.5. I just take a happy medium and you can kind of play around with that. In my experience, for a lot of women that I train or work with have trouble even hitting 100 grams a day, and that's, I'm not sure if that's just a gender thing, but I guess some women just don't like eating that much meat. But then of course it depends. There's a big variance. So using a female that works out about 4 or 5 days a week, or say 4 days a week, that has a sedentary job, they burn about 1,800 calories a day to maintain, right? So let's take the 1,800 calories and we subtract 512. That gives us, we'll just round down to 500, that gives us 1,300 calories to work with, right? So now we need to determine how many carbs and how much fat to have. Now, there's a lot of different opinions out there depending on what diet program you subscribe to. People will say, oh, calories don't matter. Calories are always going to matter to some extent or another, but you can't always assume that calories are everything. At the same token, you can't just assume that carbs are everything. I always try to look at it from kind of both perspectives because I have an opinion that, well, my opinion is that if you eat too many carbs, you typically are going to have trouble controlling your appetite if you're trying to lose weight. If you eat a lot of refined foods and lots of sugary items and pastries and processed crap, you're going to end up having trouble staying under your calories if you're trying to lose weight. If you're trying to gain weight and you're having trouble eating food, like say you want to build some muscle mass, or you're not getting enough calories to sustain your activity level to perform optimally, then eating some junk food is going to be necessary. But in general, you're definitely going to be focused on eating healthier foods, quote-unquote clean foods, which is sort of a kind of annoying word, because really when I say clean, I just mean foods that with the least amount of processing possible. You know, it's like just, you know, meat, chicken breast, chicken thigh, steak, pork, that kind of stuff, vegetables, green leafy vegetables, things like that. For a lot of people who are trying to gain weight, eating lots of vegetables can actually negatively impact the amount of calories you eat a day, especially if you're trying to gain weight. So you may have to reduce your vegetable intake just so you can get enough calories if your primary goal is to build muscle. Again, there are a lot of different opinions on kind of how to go about this, but understand that a lot of the information I'm giving you is for a general population. So if you're an athletic population, your numbers are going to skew much higher. Like for men, the multiplier I gave is between 13 and 15 times their body weight, and that will give you your maintenance calories. Now for me, if I put that number in, 3,000 calories, I already know that I burn more than 3,000 calories a day. Now how do I know this? If I eat 3,000 calories a day, I lose weight. That's basically what it comes down to, right? So understand that everyone's metabolism is a little bit different. Some people have a tendency to be kind of lower and don't really tolerate carbohydrates very well, and then some people have a higher metabolism that where they can eat lots of quote-unquote junk food and not worry about gaining weight. So it kind of, there's just a broad spectrum of people. It's kind of like you got to understand that nutrition is very individualized, and unless you decide to track all your stuff so that you can get the best kind of viewpoint on how to eat right for you, not for anybody else, for you specifically, you're just not going to be able to really figure out your exact numbers. And now I'll even go out there and say, you know, you don't need to know your exact numbers. You just need some solid principles to determine, like, okay, you know, this is how much if I eat this much food, I'm going to probably overeat, and I'm going to go over my calories, and I'm going to gain weight. You got to understand that weight loss, weight gain is a very, very slow process. Feeling fat, feeling skinny is a very fast process. All you have to do is dehydrate your body and you'll feel skinny. If you eat a big salty meal with tons of food and sugary stuff and really high fat and high sugar, you're going to feel fat. But that doesn't mean you necessarily gain a ton of fat. Maybe if you go over your calories, you might gain like 1 pound at the very most. But understand, you have to eat 3,500 calories above maintenance. That means for me, I would have to eat, based on my calculations for me, assuming my calorie expenditure, using the example of 3,000 calories, if I eat 3,000 calories in a day, I would have to eat, if I maintain at 33,000 calories a day, it means I have to eat 6,500 calories to gain 1 pound of body fat. And I might be able to pull it off in one day. There's no way I'm going to be able to do that for more than 2 days in a row. So keep in mind that everyone is a little bit different, and you have to keep that in consideration when giving nutrition advice if you're a coach, or just you're just someone that wants to help someone out. Hey guys, I made a video about carbs and fat and kind of how many grams you should eat based on the amount of calories that are left, but my numbers were off, and when I tried to edit the video, it didn't come out right. So I will go over fat and carb breakdown then in the next video I make, which will probably be this weekend. I made a video, but my numbers were off and it was too confusing to follow. Thanks for watching. If you haven't seen the first video in this series, check the description or click the photo below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video.